Well, hello and good afternoon, and thank you very much for having me. I'm Rachel, as I said, I'm Head of Policy and Campaigns at Target Ovarian Cancer. And I just this afternoon wanted to give you a little overview of the campaigning work that we do in Wales, and possibly more importantly, if you're interested, how you can get involved and join us in campaigning. So I thought I'd start off with kind of finding what is campaigning, so we all know what we're talking about. And we at Target Ovarian Cancer campaign to get those people in power to take decisions that will improve the lives of women with ovarian cancer. So that includes the Welsh Government and the NHS in Wales in particular. And a real fundamental aspect of our campaigning is that we need to work together. We need lots of people to join us so that our voice is louder, because we know that the more of us who tell decision makers that things should be different, they are more likely to listen. So I guess the first question is why do we bother? What can campaigning actually achieve for us? So we campaign across every nation in the UK at Target Ovarian Cancer, and we've had some successes. Our campaigners have helped us increase access to new cancer drugs. So there was a period of time where the Cancer Drugs Fund in England would approve treatments, but then they weren't automatically available in Wales. And that was an issue across many cancers, and we've all worked together collaboratively right across the sector. And that has changed. So now when innovative drugs like PARP inhibitors that we talked a lot about earlier in the session become available, there isn't that lag for availability in Wales that there traditionally was. We've also had some success in securing symptoms awareness campaigns. We all know how vital it is that people know the symptoms and know to go to their GP as soon as they spot something's wrong. One of the ways that we think that can happen is having government-funded symptoms awareness campaigns so that they can reach audiences that maybe have never heard of ovarian cancer before. And we've also had commitments to ensuring that all women have access to the best possible surgery. Again, we heard in the LC Expert session just how vital high-quality surgery is. So getting a little bit more into the detail of Wales, how do we actually campaign in Wales? So we at Target Ovarian Cancer will produce policy reports or positions that outline what we think needs to change. And it's so important that we work in partnership. We are just one voice in the cancer community, and we could be much more powerful when we work together. So we work very closely in partnership with a group called the Wales Cancer Alliance, which is an alliance of all charities that have a base or a voice in Wales, as well as the cross-party group on cancer, which is a group of the Welsh Parliament, so has interested MSs and again other organisations that can collaboratively come together on issues and say this needs to change. We also work very closely with the government, the NHS and MSs who might have an interest in ovarian cancer. We have several priorities in Wales, and having talked about collaborative work, the big one for us, and it's a collaborative one, is getting a cancer strategy for Wales. So the last cancer strategy in Wales delivery plan ran out in 2020. That was when it was supposed to finish. And then of course we had a pandemic. In the meantime, there's been no replacement strategy or indeed a COVID specific cancer services recovery plan. We obviously had an election in Wales not so long ago, and with that election came a brand new health secretary. So although the government has stayed the same, we have a new health secretary for the first time in 5 years. So we're really hopeful that we can work collaboratively with that incoming team to make sure that women in Wales and everyone with cancer in Wales gets the cancer strategy that they deserve, so that we can have a strategy that looks at recovering from COVID, actually improving things and making sure that Wales is on a par with the very best countries in Europe. I touched on it a little bit earlier, but we absolutely need a publicly funded awareness campaign on the symptoms of ovarian cancer. We also want to see the diagnostic pathway shortened. So currently diagnosis is a CA125 blood test, and if that is raised, then an ultrasound. We want both those tests to be carried out at the same time. That's the case in Scotland at the moment, and we consider that to be best practice. And we also want to make sure that all women with ovarian cancer have access to specialist surgery. So how can you get involved? Well, our campaigns aren't anything without people to join us and support us. We run a campaigns network, which is an opportunity for you to join with us, to tell us about your experiences and also crucially what you want to see. Come to our campaign events. And we also have a campaign toolkit to make that as easy as possible. Because I think sometimes some of the aspects of campaigning might sound a little bit intimidating. Things like, setting up meetings with your MP or your MS. we designed this toolkit specifically to make sure that that's not the case. So these are some of the things that we have in our toolkit. So number one there is contact your local representatives. Health is a devolved issue, so your MSs are normally the people to go to, but actually contacting your MP on things like awareness measures out there, or getting them to use their contacts and their mailing lists to share the symptoms can be really useful. Raising awareness of the symptoms in your area or with your network. I'm sure you will all have networks that you're a part of, and particularly in the pandemic, what we've found is sharing those symptoms on social media, using those networks has been a really powerful way of doing that. You can also write to your local press. Lots of campaigners we work with have had real success in getting either letters to editors in, sometimes tied to Ovarian Cancer Awareness Month, but not necessarily, or if you're engaged in any activity, or just telling your story. If you're comfortable telling your story, quite often your local press will be interested in that and want to hear from you. And that can be a really great way of letting other women know the symptoms to look out for. Also, if you are a campaigner or you've been involved in other campaigns of sorts along the way, we're always really keen to hear your ideas. Other things that you think we should be doing as an organisation, or other things that you think we could be encouraging others to do. So there are two of us in the campaigns team. There's myself and Ryan, who's our campaigns officer, and that link there at the end will take you directly to our campaigns toolkit. And at that point as well, you can also fill in a form, and it will sign you up to be one of our campaigners, which means you'll get messages, emails and things like that from time to time when we've got actions on. So most recently, for the Wales election, we ran a campaign where you could write to any candidate standing in your area to say, if you were elected, would you commit to raising awareness of the issue of ovarian cancer? So there's kinds of activities like that, and we were really delighted with that actually, because we had hundreds of people join in, and we've got some really warm contacts with particularly some new members of the Welsh Parliament, which is always really exciting to see whether we can get them involved and involved in our cause.